just total morons, but they still have that dominant instinct to take control of you. And they all just clapped and loved it and got creamy-eyed looks in their faces that, yes, we're going to run it. You know, we're the bosses. In closing, what do you have to say, doctor, about the government takeover of healthcare? Because now they admit pre-existing conditions aren't covered. They are going to lower the standard of care. The bioethicist at the government, Rahm Emanuel's brother, there are going to be death panels. They are going to cut your care. You know, you don't need that eye surgery when you're 65.
Well, all of that is exactly true. And we've heard these assurances that, oh, this isn't going to happen. Oh, that's just a bunch of paranoids trying to scare you. Then after the bill passes, every one of those things happen. This has happened over and over and over. You remember the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It said in there specifically, no quotas shall be used. Well, it wasn't long after the bill was passed, quotas are used. They're still used. So any assurance by these people is absolutely worthless. They intend absolute control over your life from A to Z. You control your children, the education of your children. This bill takes over all medical education. If you read it in detail, it says the Secretary of Health and Human Services will develop the curriculum for med schools, will appoint professors, will develop educational programs in dental schools, medical schools, nursing schools. The whole system will be designed by these utopian elitists, which is nothing but an absolute nightmare world. No Hollywood writer or novelist could write anything more frightening or scary than this bill. It's just terrifying.
I've got a Sunshine Project group of documents from a decade ago with the Army and Marines funding scientists to come up with drugs and injections to make the public servile. This is full spectrum dominance. And now I have Wired Magazine today, Army's vaccine plan, inject troops with gas-propelled, electrocharged DNA. And they say, well, old-fashioned vaccines can cause sterility in humans. They actually suddenly now admit that. But don't worry. We're now going to laser beam it into you, into your cells itself, and we're going to test these vaccines that will help the troops behaviorally and physically, and we can give them hundreds of vaccines per laser injection. I mean, this is a nightmare dystopia, not a utopia.
Exactly, and the very fact they're talking about putting vaccines in foods, that gives you no choice at all. You go to the supermarket, your fruits and vegetables and meats are filled with vaccines. This is the way they're vaccinating against diseases in animals in Europe. Rabies, they put it in the food, and they put it out for the animals to eat. And they're vaccinated because it goes through the GI's immune system, GI tract.
And Bill Gates has now announced people won't take their vaccines. He's coming out with mosquitoes that are genetically engineered that carry whatever vaccine they want to deliver. And the UN is working on bananas to give to third world populations because they're refusing the shots. The, quote, ignorant savages know they're being killed with this stuff. You go back 50 years ago, they would travel 100 miles to see a white witch doctor, as they called them, because back then the medicine was good. Now they run, whether it's Asia or the Middle East or Africa or the villages, they run when the UN-funded trucks show up, Dr. Blaylock.
Well, and they were smart to run. I mean, you look at Nigeria when they came in with the polio vaccine. Oh, they were going to save them all from polio. They injected them. They produced a vaccine-induced polio epidemic in children and adults and killed a number of people and left them paralyzed. Well, in their own publication, they admitted, oh, yes, the vaccine was the cause of the epidemic, but now that we've caused it, we can't stop. We have to vaccinate even more people. Well, these people were hiding in the bush to keep from being vaccinated, and then the World Health Organization and the IMF used their pressure to say, have the government of Nigeria say, if you don't get vaccinated, we'll take your children away and put you in prison. Well, it's pretty much similar to the policy they want to implement in the United States as well.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with government-run health care. In England, and you can pull this up, BBC, they're now putting newborns on list, basically probation, and at age 2 they start having physical meetings with them if their parents have, quote, bad DNA, if they were ever involved in crime. And I have the head of the Texas Psychiatric Association before the state board, and Susanna Hupp, the state rep, says, doctor, to the psychiatrist, not even really a doctor, but he calls himself that, she says, doctor, why are more than 2/3 of children in foster care on psychotropics? I have this in my film Endgame. And he says, well, that's easy. They come from bad gene pools.
Right. And this is exactly what you read in the eugenics literature in the 1920s and 30s in this country. And you read it in the 30s in Nazi Germany. They used the same justification.
Well, that's what they announce here. They actually brag that they're going to take over real MD, real Western medicine, and replace it. We already see it with the troops. When they get hurt, they just give them Prozac, and they're saying, we're just going to give you shots that cure your brain. I mean, this is a hostile corporate takeover, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is the union of mega industry, international industry and government. Which is the new socialism. The old socialism was government would take over the companies. Now the new socialism, no, we'll work together for the same utopian goal. So this is what you're seeing. International corporations are working with government to implement these draconian totalitarian plans.
Well, Dr. Blaylock, I'm not going to keep you any longer. We always appreciate it when you join us, but you have a lot of solutions, a lot of ways to at least partially reverse the toxicity that we've been exposed to, a lot of key information at BlaylockWellnessCenter.com. What are some of the things we'll find at the Blaylock Wellness Center?
Well, it has the books that I've published on this. The book Health and Nutrition Secret has a chapter on fluoridation that people need to read. It goes through the whole history and the medical findings. And the devious tactics that they've used. And it has some DVDs I've done, interviews, lecture on nutrition and behavior. So it has a lot of material in there. You can link to my other website, which has the published papers I've written, the papers I've told you about, the immunoexcitotoxicity mechanism, which are free access. You can have those.
Well, doctor, in closing, what we've done here is, with our family doctors and with everyone, Rob Dew has done this, one of our camera guys, we just bring them your books, other scientists and researchers' books. We bring them the medical literature, and we say, we're not vaccinating our children. And by the way, fluoride's deadly. Here is stuff written by top doctors. And you come back a month later, and they're converted. You can't just sit there and say, oh, the government's poisoning that to make me serve them. I mean, because they've been preconditioned that that's kooky. You bring them a stack of books and news articles promoting lithium in the water and promoting vaccines that re-engineer the brain, they will wake up. And so even if you know all about this as listeners, you've got to warn everyone you know. You've got to get Dr. Blaylock's info out. So go to his website, buy the books, the DVDs, have showings at your church, have viewings. Dr. Blaylock, is it okay for listeners to say air your DVDs on Access Television?
Well, my son sells them, so I can't.
No, I understand. You can't speak for somebody else who's got that going. The point is, it's important to have people see these.
Yeah, it is. And, I have a newsletter as well that updates things continuously. You can get it through my website, russellblaylockmd.com. But you can link to the newsletter, which comes out every month, and I update it with all sorts of new information.
Well, I have to say, we've interviewed hundreds of doctors and scientists here, but you're one of the most informed, and you have a lot of courage. And, of course, you're just going off the facts. I mean, why is it called courage to know your fellow humans are being attacked and to not stand up and speak out against what's happening?
Exactly. I mean, we have no other choice. This is the end of the game. There's no more leeway. They think they want it, and they're going to push hard. So unless we push back, we're going to lose slice us and change our brains, there's nothing we can do. So this is our last opportunity. And I push people to look into this nullification, get the book Nullification by Thomas Woods, and read it. Our last hope.
Absolutely. We also have a DVD that I'm in, put out by Gary Franchi and William Lewis, called Don't Tread on Me, Rise of the Republic. And it's really a kind of a video version similar to that book, with sheriffs and state reps and myself, how to take the sheriffs, the counties, the states back.
Right.
And that's why the feds are moving so hard to block it. They understand that's their Achilles heel.
Oh, absolutely. And they should watch your tape.
Well, Dr. Blaylock, you've been so helpful. I want to say bye to you during the break, and we'll let you go. But BlaylockWellnessCenter.com. It is so important for people to get that material. Also get my film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. As Dr. Blaylock said, this is the endgame. My film shows the globalists' own statements and their own